Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to F.E.A.R 2. Let's continue. So we spent the last level going through one floor of the creepy hospital, and now I guess we are still kind of going through the floors of the creepy hospital. Having the level change here where we load into a different interval does seem to imply that we are needing to move to a different area. We don't want to just see the exact same design and level design. It, although, in all fairness, if this is going to be anything like F.E.A.R 1, F.E.A.R 1 was completely like that. Level after level after level was in the same Armacam office. We've not really mentioned, it's still crazy that Armacam has their own like private military force. It is also worth mentioning that if we are point man, we have to be point man in the brain, point man's brain in the body of Becket, because we now know that one of the characters that we started the game with recognizes us visually, which then confuses the issue slightly as to why all the mirrors are broken, other than for video game reasons that all the mirrors are broken. It's been a bit of a while since I've played. I've slept since then, so it may take me a little bit of time to decide where to figure out how to play this. I wouldn't be surprised. So somebody just threw an incendiary grenade. Let's go ahead and throw a grenade ourselves. Like, you can definitely feel the Gears of War influence here with the damage indicator, which at a certain point that is just the Unreal Engine influence of shooters. Even though this isn't on the Unreal Engine, you can certainly see how they evolved and stole from each other. Like, great artist steal is, I believe, a phrase from somebody famous. But yeah, it's definitely an iterative process that happens here, where first person shooting on PC and on consoles just completely improved their systems and techniques to the point where we are now, where it is as common as sliced bread to have a first person shooter where time might slow down, although that's not always in every game. It's fairly common and often not even necessary to explain what's going on or why that would be the case. Let's see. This door is barricaded, so it won't open. And you can jump up here and you can crouch down, but they've made it specifically not accessible. And that door swings, which that's a little interactive. I feel a little bit taller than I feel like I should. Med kits are full. Wow, so you can only have 3 med kits on easy, on normal? That seems kind of crazy. Like, you could have 10 med kits in F.E.A.R 1. And so either the difficulty setting has reduced the amount you can hold, which that at a certain point may make an argument that I do need to just turn down the whole setup of the turn down the difficulty of the game. Interesting. So they're placing charges where these X's are, which is funny because then that does imply that somebody ran through the previous levels and put X's, but wasn't placing the charges. So that seems fairly weird that someone would decide to split it up that way. I've also missed several incendiary grenades, which I guess now if you wanted to use incendiary grenades, you can. You can see we are also going to get shock grenades at some point and proximity mines. So we'll move over to incendiary grenades so we can at least play with them. Here we see some more explosives of all kinds. Yeah, I guess we are still very much into a tutorial mode, even though we are in the 3rd level. And they are... There we go, we've got the guy on fire. I don't think I can actually hit that guy through that glass. This guy's still alive. And you really do have to listen for the screams of pain. Interesting. Pick up the intel item through the window. This really is fairly tit for tat. They throw a grenade, I throw a grenade. Like, I shoot, they shoot. I could crouch down and...
What the fuck?
My slowdown is not good enough. And my targeting on the using a controller is still not precise enough when you start getting in further distances. Incendiary grenades not really useful. Frag grenades clearly the better option because they have slightly higher explosive circumference to them. Can't get through the exit. Here we've got some combat shotguns that they never really seem like they've put me in a position where a combat shotgun makes a lot of sense because you'd have to be so close to the people. See, this says pistol. This says pistol. So is this gun the same as that? Or is there possibly... Like, I haven't mapped the H button to anything. So let's see if we can press the H button. Nope. H does not let you drop guns. So I have to assume that these are just pistols. And that there is no extra submachine gun type weapon that you could replace a pistol with. And now we just activate the elevator, which it totally pushed the wrong place.
I was wondering when we'd hear from you again. Why are you helping us?
Because I'm convinced that if Sergeant Becket dies, everybody dies. It all has to do with Project Harbinger. I'll explain later. Just haul ass.
Yeah, that would have been a kind of a great point to maybe hide a loading mission if you needed to hide some loading while we were in the elevator and tell us some backstory. It might very well have been that in the original depiction of this game, resolutions would have had him push the button, and maybe just because we've stretched this out to 1080p, and even though the engine can handle it, they didn't really ever program or test for that. We're seeing also a bit of a logo for this hospital, but I don't think the hospital really needs a logo, so it's just kind of like 3 strands of DNA where you would have a helix normally, probably trying to subtly hint that this might be where Project Harbinger started and that you are some kind of super soldier prototype character that they've brought back. And yes, there still is a possibility that that your body may be Beckett's, but you might be Point Man's mind since the start of this surgery, this story, this level interval. Also, somebody's shooting at me, but I can't see him. So they're gonna burn the place. And we're gonna get back to smokiness and darkness. I imagine we also will get back to some spookiness fairly quickly. I guess the question is, which way are we supposed to be going as we are looking for people to shoot and collectibles to collect? Yeah, there's a vent over here, which I guess that means we're going into the vents, which means we can get away from just seeing hospital areas. Here we have just a standard bathroom, and at that point they could have thrown a spooky thing at us, but they didn't. And yeah, it's just fire back this way. I've managed to hurt myself. Apparently you can press this and slide this over for cover. The cover system is fairly pointless. It seems to only work on some objects at some times, not even consistently on the same objects. Like, you would see more procedural programming in modern games, where every object would be programmed to react the same way, and thus you could slide every single gurney. See, I guess maybe this is not a place where you're supposed to be able to get through here. This is just to see, maybe shoot at some people. Of course, when you introduce, here we have a bloody handprint, and here's a bloody handprint, all kinds of bloody handprints. When you introduce procedural programming on objects, you run into the scenario, here's a fully burned body, you run into the problem where games can be fairly glitchy. I think I'm fighting a boss, and I wasn't really ready for that. Try and hit the pack on the back of him. Yeah, he's setting me on fire. And this is not working well. Apparently I'm not on frag grenades when I should be. I gotta watch my health here. There's no real way to put yourself out of fire. So now we've got this flame gun that feels like way more of a like this napalm gun feels way more like a Bioshock type weapon, not a I guess you might as well just use health. Every little burst seems to be fairly slow with the napalm gun too, so it's probably not the right weapon to use unless you're going to fight something big. So let's just swap back to the submachine gun and what we were using before. Let's see. We're supposed to go, I think, that way, which makes me think that there probably is a collectible this way to check out. Yep. I believe that was a health increase. Yeah, it seems like the Alma leading you, either Alma as a child or Alma as an adult concept has stopped at this point. Perhaps Alma's accomplished her goal by getting you the slowdown time patterns, and now she's just more protecting you. Perhaps she's not really protecting you, but at all, and just trying to kill other people. Or it could just be, as we had a jump scare there, a case that Alma, as an adult or as a child, is scripted in very specific points, and if you start to have more gunfire points, you start to have less Alma points. And I guess that's the way it's got to kind of be, because at the core of this is still going to be 51% shooter and only 49% spooky at best. Like, these guys definitely don't feel like they are the dumb military guys that you fought in the first place. I don't feel like that they're just clone super soldiers that would stop the second someone who's controlling them psychically is defeated. That was a dumb idea anyways in the first game, is to say we're gonna throw hundreds upon hundreds of soldiers in front of at you, but all you have to really do is kill the one guy in charge, and then every other one is going to just fall, stay standing stationary because they are mindless characters. It's counterintuitive to say that your enemies are mindless in a game that at its core is trying to show off its AI concepts and the fact that the soldiers aren't mindless. They're talking to each other all the time. That doesn't make any sense if they were all controlled by the same psychic guy. If they were all controlled by the same psychic guy, they would be completely silent because everybody would be communicating psychically, or the one master person in charge, the one psychic person controlling all the people, would know everything that's coming through all the eyes and ears of each empty shell soldier. Perhaps would have made a little bit more sense if they had said, here's some slightly bad animations of burnt boxes. If they had said instead that he was psychically coordinating with them and they were individuals with individual minds and thoughts, but they were receiving just messages, okay, that makes more sense. But that's absolutely not what the first game said as far as the military soldiers you were fighting. Now, you have a better explanation that maybe the ghosts that Alma was controlling in the first game, and maybe they'll control in the second game, are mindless characters being directly controlled by Alma. And then it makes sense that defeating Alma would be all you need to do. Wow. So either we are in a false world, like I'm not in time slowdown at all, so either these are screens that showed the sky and they're glitched out, or that is the world outside, and then that doesn't really explain this, so I guess they're screens. And that certainly is creepy.
What is it now?
Alma, she must be after Sergeant Becket. His telesthetic profile is off the charts. As I suspected, she can sense him without amplification.
Hey, Snake Fist. Who the fuck is Alma anyway?
She's the mother of the apocalypse. Snake Fist out.
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, she's not doing a great job questioning him and trying to get intel out of him. The idea that Alma is the mother of the apocalypse would be better if there were other monsters that showed up that weren't under her control, and like a Cthulhu-esque bag of tentacles killing monsters, killing the bad guys, which we've seen before, probably helps with that idea. But you kind of need a little bit of an earlier revelation of that, if that's the way the story is going to go, that we're just going to start seeing all kinds of demons. And frankly, that... And it's very strange that just like every person you encounter is an enemy. Like, so just shoot at everybody. Here we have another guy that's just ragdolled. You would want to maybe in a modern game throw in some new civilians or something along that line that would help. It's kind of funny how when you think about like Dead Space and how you're in some of the early levels running into bathrooms and there was kind of nothing in the bathrooms in most of the cases, that this is a game that's doing pretty much the same, because it's very obvious when designing levels that levels should have bathroom access. if you want it to feel like a real world, and there should be offices and there should be places where it where there would be computers and TVs and just standard things you would expect to see in the real world. But then that often creates this middle ground where they don't want to waste a lot of time animating things. Where was that body that they were looking at? Like they were like here we can't press the buttons. And they were here looking at this guy. And here we have quite the scribbling on the wall of craziness. So, yeah, it's all over the place, and it's like in the shape of a dragon or something. So, it seems those are like footprints on the wall. It seems like either the young Alma did this or the old Alma did this, and I don't know if there's really much of a difference. I hear something different. The music changed. They're keeping this more varied than the first game by far. And somebody just shot at me and then got ripped away. And his head is now in the washing machine. So the guy basically just shot at you to get your attention. I wouldn't be surprised if those bullets can't even hit you. So it definitely feels like Alma's helping you. Interesting. They introduced that guy limping so he can't hit you too much, but they do let him hit you so you know you're back to the standard gameplay. You wouldn't really want a whole experience for like an hour where Alma is killing everything in front of you. They might as well at that level not even bother to show you the enemies if that's the case. And I guess there's just a level of determination or protection that these soldiers have to make them not just be completely disappeared like so many people seem to have been in the first game. Or they're kind of just retconning that idea and Alma is just individually killing every single person around instead of just turning them to ash. Which I'd be willing to believe that. Still a little peeved I can only have 3 health kits. Now we see Alma's footprints. And I guess also is going to show that we are not needing to run around and look for health kits. Which, that's nice. Because having the ability to have 10 health kits inevitably created a scenario where we actually needed to pick up 10 health kits, or felt like we needed that in the first game, so there's less wandering around because of that. Of course, the problem with introducing the idea of limping is you can kind of only go so far with that before everybody's limping and it just gets kind of ridiculous. This feels like what they're hinting at and what we're approaching is a point where these military guys are going to be mostly eliminated, although this is a medical guy and this is a medical guy. And we're going to have a second faction, a stronger faction introduced, some power levels. Yeah, and that seems to be the case. We now have creepy zombie characters taking out the people. And here we have more intel. Which, yeah, faster enemies now potentially changes the scenario where I could be halfway through the third level and realize, oh, well, this game worked when I was walking slowly and fighting against humans, but if the enemies I'm fighting against are... I feel like the subtitles should be on for that, and they aren't. And I think these images here are either supposed to be representations of how Alma felt trapped in her, what is it, a watery grave, for lack of a better term, a isolation tank. Yeah, that's a better phrase. So she may have been psychically been able to see the days pass really fast. Yeah, but if we start fighting a whole bunch of monsters and they move twice as fast, well, playing with the controller is going to be twice as difficult then. We are seeing a lot more blood, which that also introduces an issue in that you may just not really have been willing to go on a journey for such a bloody and gory experience. And for the first couple levels, it's been slightly bloody and gory, but it hasn't been a total bloodbath like this. And this is basically the same floor design we've seen before. They've just moved a few things around. So they're reusing every little hallway they design at least 2 or 3 times. Which, alright, it's not terrible. It's not insanely repetitive. So, yeah. One guy gets grabbed by the monsters. You can't have a game here where the monsters decide to just help you and they never attack you, though, because then that would be very weird. He was literally just dragged through here. And there's definitely more people around because we're not being automatically pulled out of our slow mode. Yep. I think as a hero's journey in particular, you need to earn the ability of the monsters to fight on your side in one way or the other. So I think you probably would need to fight them, defeat Alma, and then you could have one level at the end of a game where you summon monsters and they all fought for you on your side. This is an odd little computer alcove. Like, where am I supposed to go? Let's see. That doesn't open. We saw that. We went through here. Oh. We were supposed to call the elevator. And supposed to go up here? Nope. Let's see. If I focus directly on here and press the button. Nope. It is just randomly pressing the wall.
Becket, I just saw Aristide get into an elevator. I'm gonna try to catch up to her. Just focus on getting out of here. We can link up outside.
Wow, an actual working elevator. And maybe those did hide load or save sections at some point, but they definitely don't now. Like, if anything, it seems like the save happens after you get out of the elevator, so they could only be hiding load sections. Yeah, you have some custom art that maybe is not super useful because we won't see a lot of it. I don't know if these are supposed to be armor cam ads. Like, it says Auburn down there. Yeah, they probably should try and retcon and get rid of the armor cam elements, because armor cam as a company probably has been played out. And so here we can now see Alma looking at you in the nightmare sequence. That pulls you down. And am I supposed to be shooting? Or what? Okay. Right click, right click, right click. Which one's right click? Do I have any? What button is right click? I'll have to figure that out. 1 second. Let's see. Alt tab. Enjoy the key. Let's see. Mouse. Left click. We have not mapped right click to any button. Is button 5. Which one is button 5 on the Xbox? That is the left bump. So, melee. Okay. Okay. I'm kind of glad that happened though, because I was not. Let's go ahead and switch to automatic shooting here. I wasn't really certain I wanted to run all the way out of here yet. I wanted to look around a little bit more, and there's nothing here. So this does give you the feeling that this perception of reality is as valid as the perception of that the doctors were doing surgery on you. Alright, so I tried to right click there, trying to pull the trigger now, doesn't work, and do that. Right click, right click, right click, and punch, or left bump, as it were. Darn it, I think I just shot a grenade back at myself. How many doctors are here? 3. There's another one. So we kind of had a boss fight before where it was the napalm guy, and this probably would have been a good point to use the napalm fire. They seem to be going pretty much the same place over and over again. They're fairly looped. And Alma seems to have only really the ability to turn them into crazy doctor monsters, not either that or Alma led you here as a trap knowing that none of the other people could kill you. Or maybe you're just not that special and maybe the monsters are just straight up killing everybody. And even with the slowdown of time, the you're not getting you're not getting enough of this. The music's still playing, which makes me think there's still monsters. I guess the question is, am I supposed to run or nope, music finally stopped. Yeah, undoubtedly that was the wrong thing to do. Oh, I guess you could have maybe decided to try and run and avoid all of that. But if you don't, then you've got this monster closet where they're just kind of infinitely spawning. There's not even a place that they're dropping down from, so yeah, they have a fixed amount of these guys who are going to obviously be bullet sponges and not replenish your bullets by much. Here's another monster closet where maybe one popped out. I bet they kind of figured out all kinds of different places. Can he see? Question mark. Let's see. It's very possible that these guys look like monsters to me, and they look like just normal people to everyone else. Although they still would have to have been crazy if they were actually attacking me. Otherwise, I just mowed down in some kind of delusion a bunch of innocent bystanders. Feel like we should have about 17 more minutes.
We have to help her.
Who's talking? Becket, we have to help her.
She's crying.
Oh. So.
Becket. We have to help her.
So he's on the machine and he's getting stabbed over and over again, and you can see how he's all zombified and grotesque. And I guess we are being led to potentially help Alma, although I don't know if that's really the right move. Did they intentionally kidnap him and put him on this table, or did he just get knocked on this table, or did the monsters put him on this table and inject him? Because he doesn't really feel like he's been prepped in any way to actually be injected, since he's just getting injected through his stomach. Here we have more. Help me, I'm in hell. Yeah, it's questionable how, if there should be 17 more minutes of experience in this level, or if that should have just been the end of it. But I guess for horror games, you don't have so much of a falling action after you fight a group of enemies or a boss fight. Instead, you have a more of a continuing growing action of horror, and that's exactly what we've done there. Now, only slight problem here in this 45 minutes, so episodes I guess will get a little bit shorter going forward. Either I'm getting better, which is probably not the case, or the levels are just going to be slightly inconsistent in length, which isn't really a big deal. But yeah, because this doesn't have actual controller support, it doesn't put up the right prompts, so it's telling me to right click. I've mouse. I then had to spend several seconds outside of the game, breaking the flow of the game, going to joy to key to figure out that right click is the melee button and it's mapped to the left bump. Then I have to go look at a website on joy to key's website talking about how the Xbox controller's left bump is button number 5, because that's not really common knowledge either. So uh, it is definitely game breaking. Whereas if they had just integrated it in a simple patch, like I bet less than 5 MB patch would be all you would need to integrate controller support and at least get the button prompts right. Even if they put out a patch several years ago and it just gave me button prompts for like the Xbox 360 button, which were much more colorful and kind of ugly, particularly in a horror game, they would not fit. That would be better than getting what we are getting. But yeah, that is just going to be a consistent issue. Is that I cannot recommend F.E.A.R 2 to people that want to play with a controller but don't want to then have to live with the extra hour of setup it's going to take to get it, and the just confusion that trying to map everything to a controller setup is going to cause. As for the story itself, yeah, we are just kind of doing the same old. They've introduced these creepy doctors, which feels like they're going to keep us in the hospital, or they're going to have to put a different kind of outfit on the creepy doctors once we get to a new area. They still are kind of doing the F.E.A.R thing where it feels like, I know there's a school section, and almost certainly there is a facility of some sort that we'll reach. So it maybe we'll spend a third of the game in the hospital, a third of the game in the school, and a third of the game in the facility. Maybe we never get to an office like Armor Cam, which I'm perfectly happy with that because we don't need that. I doubt we'll get back to a hotel, a like apartment complex that we started the game in, because like that would just be redundant use at that point. We're still seeing spooky things, but the spooky things I feel like are always going to be so centered around Alma that they're not that spooky. Whereas if it had just been a case that Alma unleashed the apocalypse and then we just started seeing all kinds of crazy things, just like throw in some crazy clowns for no reason, throw in a creepy old lady, throw in a super tall Slender Man type character, that would have been, this game would have been probably before anybody knew about the made up story of Slender Man, because I don't think it had been made at this point, but uh, creepy tall people certainly existed before that. Just take every single trope of every single horror story you've ever known and put it in there, and just let everything be that case. Or if you're going to go with the Cthulhu-esque stuff, dive deep into the Cthulhu mythos and have a lot of characters like that show up. Because Alma herself is being twisted here into being the damsel in distress much more than a unknowable, uncontrollable evil force that is unleashing even more unknowable, uncontrollable evil forces. If anything, like Stranger Things is putting a weird twist on this story, because you could easily had you watched Stranger Things before playing this game, which would be really weird since Stranger Things came out many years after this, you would think, oh, Alma just used her psychic powers accidentally to open up a realm, open up a gateway to a different realm, and there's actually some bigger evil that is escaping through her, and she's just a victim, like 11 in Stranger Things. And I don't think that was their intention in telling this story, so time certainly can change people's perception, and experience can change people's perception. And if they were going to remake Fear 2 or the Fear series, they're going to have to address a lot of that. Anyways, there's nothing more else to really say that I should say, so let's end it here. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.